Should you stay home or move out? Welcome back to After Hour Happy Hour. We are your chaotic but cathartic co-host. I'm Vicky.
I'm Jamila.
I'm Sharon.
And in today's episode, we are going to talk about whether you should move out of your home or stay in it.
You can word it better. I mean, you should stay in a home.
Okay. So
we're not encouraging you to be homeless.
Jesus, Vicky.
Okay, to clarify. So in today's episode, we're going to talk about whether you should stay in your parents' home or move out and live on your own. Because here we've done both.
Ish with the jam-ish.
What do you mean?
Wait, college.
Oh, I meant like post-college. But yes, that too, I guess.
Do you think I'm just a child?
No, I meant like after. Well, like during college, it's like fine. But like after college, I'm not saying it's not fine. That's not what I was trying to go for. We could talk about both. How about that? Okay.
Let's talk about our current situation. Where are we at now?
I lived home, and then when I went to college, I moved out. So I attended college at San Diego, which is like 2 hours from home. And then ever since, actually no, after I graduated was when like COVID happened. So I actually got lucky with saving money on rent by living at home because we didn't have to go into work anyway. But at some point in my life, about a year into it, I started going real crazy. So I actually just moved 2-3 months ago to Seattle on my own, living alone. And then currently, if you're watching the video version, I'm back home for like holidays.
So for me, also very similar because we all went to college together and we all lived together. And then I came back home because my workplace is really close to home. So I was able to live at home and save money. And I've been home ever since, with the exception of the last month and a half when I finally got a chance to visit Sharon in Seattle, where I guess I got a little bit of the experience of moving out. But now I'm also back home for the holidays. As you can see with my Got7 posters, I am back with this background with the boys, you know? So yeah, that's my current situation.
I'm very similar too. I moved out for college because I lived very far from the college that I went to. And then after college, I also stayed at home for a year because of COVID. And then I yeeted myself to Korea. And here I have my own apartment.
Okay, so that's our current living situation. So how about we go into which one do you prefer, living out on your own or / with housemates? Or do you prefer to stay at home?
Question before that. Because me and Sharon both, we now currently live alone in our apartments. And then all of us in college had roommates or like housemates. Have you guys ever lived alone before post-college?
No.
Like not even like a single?
Like at home, yeah. Well, that doesn't count, right? Because you live in a house full of people. But moving to Seattle was the first time I lived alone because even in college, I always had roommates. Actually, I lied. In the summer, when I lived with Jam in her house, I had the whole bottom floor to myself. But technically, I don't consider living alone because Jam would just come bother my space 90% of the time. So, you know?
What do you
Not bother, it
mean?
was
I
great.
gave you company.
Yeah. So it never felt like I was alone. So no, not until I moved to Seattle.
Okay. Which do you guys prefer?
Jam, you want to tell them about your experience living alone for 2 days while I was gone?
I hate living alone. It will literally be the death of me. Okay, actually, I think I could live alone if I was living really close to you guys or close to friends, where it's almost like next door kind of thing, and I just go home to my bed to sleep and I wake up and eat and stuff. But if I had to live alone, like what Vicky and Sharon are doing right now, I can't. Like the 3 days where Sharon went to her offsite, I was alone and her place. The best part about it was that I slept on her bed, so felt really good. Other parts was I was so lonely and I was just like also feeling like super down from work and stuff. So being in that space by myself, it was just like a avalanche, snowball of like negative emotions up and up, and I just felt so lonely and I cried.
Not funny. Sorry, didn't mean to laugh.
Dude, it still blows my mind how much Jam needs people.
Bro, after coming back from Seattle, I felt so much more like healed. I didn't even know that the word could be applicable to me. And I was like, oh my God, I just feel so much better after seeing people. And like, I don't hate life as much anymore.
That's wild. But like it's not even you need human interaction, like it genuinely affects your mood.
But I think
Yeah.
that's more people than you think, because that's kind of what happened to me too. We briefly touched upon it, but I think Jam can be alone if she's in a good place, but it just so happens that she's not in a great place this year. So being alone and like not having, and this applies to me too, just not having like worked through what we're going through and then being in that negative space alone is very detrimental.
I feel like when I'm by myself, the circle is just a circle. But when you add that human interaction, it feels like the circle breaks open. Like there's other stuff going in. It's not just a circle. Yeah,
That was
something
good.
like that.
Good job.
Thank you.
So Jam prefers to not live alone.
Yes.
But what about moving out versus staying at home?
Oh, definitely moving out. I think generally because one, I'm a pretty independent person and I really enjoy my freedom. So moving out for college was the best thing ever. Like best thing ever. So coming back home, I mean I like to be taken care of, but after being home for the entire year, I was just going crazy. And then after being in Seattle, seeing Sharon, I was just like, wow, this is what it means to have like that full freedom again, doing what I want to do, like hanging out with friends past, 12 p.m. or 12 a.m. Sorry, 12, past 12 a.m. So yeah, I definitely prefer moving out.
So it's kind of what Jam touched upon, but living by yourself versus moving out of your home with your parents is very, very different, because now that I've lived by myself, I think it's a mixture of me having said that 2021 was just a terrible year for me. So being in that space by myself and letting my own thoughts just eat itself up is not the best, because whenever I'm with people, those thoughts go away, or like where I'm at mentally is a lot better. But at the same time, I can't imagine living with people other than you guys, because that just means I don't have my own space to like be upset or like not be okay if I wanted to, kind of thing. At this point, I know for a fact if I want to live with people, it has to be people who I'm extremely comfortable with, aka you guys. And that also means that I know for a fact confidently we would motivate each other and keep each other accountable, versus when you're alone it's a lot harder to do that. Jam, don't give me don't say that, because I'm
No, no,
I'm
I'll just say
completely excusing 2021 as a whole. Like I'm just
no. No, because I'm just saying when we lived together, like before we came to Seattle, we're like, yeah, we're gonna like be so much better, like do this, do that. And when we got there, I thought like I would just turn 180, but that didn't happen. And I was literally just like sulking and I have a blanket over my head, like questioning why the heck am I still doing this stuff, whatever. At the end of it, now that I'm reflecting back on it, I feel like we did, I don't know about motivating each other, but I think we both got better in
well,
a way.
I'm telling you right now, 2021 just doesn't count. But will I ever want to live at home again with my parents? No, because I can't. You just grow out of the place that you grew up in, and it's very hard to do the things that you want to do. And it's not like I have a bad relationship with my parents either. It's just I need my own space, and I need to not be nagged every 5 seconds.
I feel like our parents just will constantly think that we're their babies. So no matter what age you get, how secure you are in your life, they'll still nag you and they'll still bother you, which also means that I am pro moving out of your house. And I prefer living by myself, which like getting my own apartment here was good and bad, because I'm also the same where I can't live with anybody anymore unless it's like you guys or my sister, maybe. I can't imagine coming back to my house and not feeling like I can be myself again. This is my safe space, and every time I came home from work or when I would stop hanging out with friends and come home, I knew I could do whatever I wanted at home. Like if I was having a shitty day and if I wanted to cry, I could cry. If I was happy and I wanted to just sing and like do random things, no one was here to stop me because I had my own space. But going home, I don't think I can move back into my house, but I probably might need to for a couple of months, and I'm so dreading it. But I would like to have my own space or to be living with you guys, aka people that I'm very, very comfortable with.
I feel like moving back home after college, I low-key have, this sounds very serious, like PTSD from high school or like pre-high school. Because growing up, like my parents or my mom specifically had like a lot of rules. Something about the bowls or something about like being very neat, putting everything back in place. So when I came home, I felt like I still had to do all those things, and like it just mentally stressed me out when like I'll use like an extra bowl, or if I'm watching like some, I guess, like stupid movie, or I'm not like studying for something or not working.
That's my parents too. I think most of it is PT. I remember I had this conversation with my mom, of all people. She was like, I don't get why you guys are so scared of coming back home. Like, we're not that strict anymore. You can do whatever you want and all these things. But I'm like, how do you explain to your parents that they gave you PTSD? So it's not right now, but it was when we were growing up. You kind of instilled this mindset. So now I can't grow out of it every time at home.
Dude, literally, because my mom just like, you have it so good at home. Like, we feed
Oh,
you.
yeah.
You don't have to do dishes. And they're, for most part, are like pretty chill. We don't have a curfew or anything. They sleep by 12. So I don't want to come home at like 2 a.m. and then, you know, wake them up. Or sometimes my mom's like, oh my God, I was so worried about you because you haven't come home yet. It's like all these little things. And it's not like I'm
Dude,
not grateful, but it's just, I'm 23. And sometimes I'm still scared to ask my parents if I could go out 2 days in a row.
me too. That's like the biggest thing, where if I stay out till like 3 a.m. on one day, I'm gonna stay myself home for like 3 days.
Yeah, or like they hover. Like my mom's like, come home, like you have freedom, I'll leave you alone. And then if I try to do something in the kitchen, she'll like watch me and I'm like, well, you're hovering. And then she's like, well, I feed you all these things. And then every time she has to cook, she's like, oh, what do I make? Like, oh, I'm so stressed. And I'm like, dude, like, why do you want me to come home if I'm just a burden to you? But it's not even like that. I know they just, you know,
It's just
it's just
parenting.
parenting. But I also believe that even if you have like a really, 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 I'm not saying we don't have a healthy relationship, but like really, really good relationship with your parents where you don't have to worry about these things, I feel like you should still move out and experience like independence and stuff and kind of learn what it is to do things on your own. Because also for me, I've realized living away from home makes my relationship with my parents stronger or like better, because I appreciate them more when they're like, when I'm having to cook for myself, I'm like, oh, I miss the home cooked meals, or I remember to like call my parents every now and then, versus if I'm home, I'm just so used to it that I forget to be like grateful or take a moment and be like, oh, it's nice. You know what I mean?
This is a sign for all the first gen kids, specifically first gen kids who feel guilty about like spending the money on rent when you can live at home and taking care of your parents. Do it, because you appreciate your family so much more, and it's like you need that time and space away from family. You can't live with them forever.
Also, for college students who are thinking about moving out, as you can tell that we're very like pro like towards like moving out, but I think it was just a really good learning experience on how to grow up, how to do things on your own, because I definitely became a lot more independent from having to live by myself or like with friends, and learning kind of like life skills. For example, when our sink will get clogged, call the plumber, or just like small things in life that is very useful down the line that you don't necessarily learn when you're living at home because your parents take care of everything for you.
To get even further, I'm also a big advocate for moving out of your town. Move out and go to another city, or like go out of the state. I don't know what you need to do. That also changes the game a lot. I don't know how, but moving to San Diego or moving to Korea, just being in a new environment where you're super uncomfortable, you learn so much more about yourself because you get to discover new things versus being in a safe space all the time.
So then let's say like in 2 years or 3 years, let's say for whatever reason, we're not physically in the same place. Jam does, and you don't, maybe you're in a location where your options are limited. Would you live with random people?
I feel like I wouldn't be opposed to living with random people, but I'll be a lot more picky, maybe. But I also wouldn't be opposed to living by myself if I am moving out to a place where I know there's a lot of friends, or I'll be able to meet new people.
I think that's also why the older I get, the more picky I am about even living with people that I know, because being friends with someone versus living with them and seeing daily habits and living style habits is very different. Like living with
Yeah.
somebody can break or make a relationship faster than you think.
I do living. I don't actually. Most of our house, all of our housemates, in college, I was pretty okay with. But now that I have a certain standard to my apartment now, I can't imagine cleaning after people.
Oh, yeah.
That's the biggest thing. I can see why my parents would yell at me all the time about one single dish or like just random things around the house, because now that I like a certain level of cleanliness, there's very, very few people where I would do it for them.
Yeah, you did dishes a lot in college.
Yeah.
Me.
Like, if I didn't know you, like, if we are strangers right now and we live together, I would not do your dishes for you, especially not after a long day of work. In college, it was okay because I wasn't at this level of tiredness. But after a long day of work and dealing with like bullshit all day, and I come home and I have to do your dishes for you and I don't even know you, bro,
I agree.
hell no.
I mean, I feel like my living habits has elevated since college, okay?
So that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't think I could live with people besides you guys. And even then, we'll all have our own living room or bedroom. So then everything else will
Dude,
be.
I mean, I'm not going against what you're saying, but I was just saying we literally lived in a studio together. We had no privacy and we saw each other literally 24/7. And it was fine.
Yeah.
At least to me, it was fine.
I wasn't like worried, like, oh, am I gonna see that living style, like living habits of Jam that I won't like? But I know to a point where we're just so comfortable that like I didn't even think about that. I know, dude, can I speak today? I was talking to my mom yesterday, and she's just confused why I'm hungry all the time. So you guys know of like what I'm going through right now, right? But then my mom was like, oh, when Jam was living with you, it must have been so uncomfortable because you couldn't just tell her all the time like your eating problems or whatever. And then I was like, little do you know that Jam knows everything of what's wrong with me. So no, mom. I mean, I didn't tell her directly, but in my head I'm like, no, like I'm comfortable enough where they know these things.
See, that's the most, this is so off topic. But it's so interesting to me that our parents never understand how close you can get to a person. That's not family.
Yes.
That blows my mind, because to them there's always a barrier between them and their friends, and they're like, they're gonna think I look bad, or like this is da 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 da, and I'm just like, bro, like the amount of stuff you two know about me is significantly more than anyone else in this world, and like my parents don't understand that.
Yeah. Before I moved out, my mom and I had a fight, and then basically at home I was just like super miserable. So I just looked like I hate life all the time, but I was just really sad. But my mom she was just like, you look like you hate life. And I was like, I'm sorry, that's just my face. So then she was just like, oh, are you gonna be like this like when you go to Seattle? Like, you're not gonna be like this in front of your friends and stuff like that. But on the contrary, I went to Seattle, I'm literally like, Sharon! Ah! Like, literally, we're just so comfortable. We just know about each other so much that we're not afraid to show these like quote unquote negative side of ourselves, where our parents with their friends are definitely a lot more like cautious. They're like, oh, I want to show the best version of myself in front of my friends, or if my friend do me a favor, I have to return that favor, where it's not like that between us.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like you guys know more about my worst sides than my best sides at this point.
Yeah.
We know all of it.
Yeah, we got really off topic.
Yeah, we
But
really
you know, these
did.
are perks of moving out, like living with your friends. You grow with your friends, and this is how you have like a deeper friendship too.
On that topic of living alone, it's something that I've always wanted to do. So if you have an interest in it, I feel like you should, regardless of, okay, like you have to, of course, be able to financially support yourself. But, you know, especially as us Asians, we've grown up with the idea of you always have to save money, don't spend money on things you don't absolutely need. So I remember even after saving a whole year's worth of like rent and expenses from living at home, it was a very hard decision for me to live alone because I was like, I'm poor. But then, you know, are you really poor? I mean, you might be. I feel like this is going in a circle. I'm just basically saying if you can, you should live alone if you want to.
I'm telling y'all right now, I moved out the house and a month later I quit therapy. So that says a lot of shit, okay?
Damn me. I moved out to live alone and I should start therapy.
I should start again, but then I quit because I was like, I'm so okay.
I moved out for that month and a half, and I came back so much better. But now that I'm back in the house, feel like I need therapy again.
You're not okay.
So the good things about living at home with your parents is you get to save money.
And you are
But
fed.
do you really need money? Oh yeah, you get fed too.
And I guess another good thing is, obviously, as you grow up, more grow older, you get busy and busier. So given that our age right now and given like COVID, I did have a chance to really like spend time with my parents before, I get really busy or, they move to another place. So, there's that pro.
I feel like a lot of people that think about moving out, a big part is the guilt of leaving their parents, especially if they're older. I don't know how I justified moving out. I feel like I just keep up with my parents all the time, and I call them and I ask them how they're doing. Because when you move out, it's not like you cut yourself off from your family, especially if you don't move far, you can still go home. It's just the experience of not being in the house with them all the time that changes the game.
I think it's also very situational or circumstantial because for me, even though my parents are always like, oh, I wish you lived closer to home or like come home, I know for a fact it's easier for them if I'm out of the house because my mom doesn't have to stress out. She's a very like easily stressed person, so she doesn't have to stress about like, oh, what do I have to make for breakfast, lunch, and dinner? Or like, even though I contribute to like my own meals and stuff, or like basically just feeling the need to like take care of me all the time, even though I'm my own age. So I know for a fact giving my parents their own space is even better for them to take care of themselves. So even in that situation, I think it's okay if you remove yourself and give kind of like your parents their own time or their own space to do things on their own and stuff.
Any tips for people who are moving out then? Finding an apartment, oh my gosh, I know that was such a struggle for us in college. I didn't really help that much, but did you guys have any advice?
I think college is usually okay because you know people who may have previously lived there before. So you have that sort of trust. Plus, we were in a good area, so there was like less to worry about. I guess for me, moving out like to Seattle, I'm very glad that I physically went to go apartment, wrote a whole list of apartments with budget, square footage, COVID perks, all these stuff. And then I went to go in person, and some were worse than pictures, some were better than pictures. So I would just recommend like actually go looking in person. Did I ever tell you that this one apartment looked okay, and then I walked in and no lights were on, but it was like neon green inside because the walls outside were painted neon green, and I was like, why would anybody think this is a good idea? But I immediately turned out, I was like, no, I'll let you know, but no, not at all.
If you can't physically be there, ask for videos. It's easier to not get lied to with videos than pictures because it's harder to edit a video, obviously. So I will say that if you're in college, getting housemates or roommates makes it really worth it because it was so fun in college to have people live with me. It's only after college where living alone was fun, but during college, you all go through midterms and finals and the struggle of being a student together, and it's really fun.
In college,
Yeah.
I don't think you should live alone. You could have an own single in like a
Yeah.
apartment or a house, but I think you should live with people even if it's strangers because that's how you meet people. But then once you like outgrow that and once you're ready to live on your own after college, then that's a different situation.
Also, some random tips that I see everywhere for when you're moving into an apartment. Check if you have cell service wherever you go. Walk into the apartment and check if you have cell service. Ask about the previous people who lived there. That's me watching horror movies, but ask about the people who used to live there. Why did they move out? I don't know.
That's just Vicky being very prepared. That's a good thing.
Oh my god, what if you guys move into a place and then one day you found out someone had died in there?
I don't think they're
I would
allowed to
cry.
let you move into somewhere without knowing that.
I think there's a law that if they died
Oh, really?
within a
Yeah.
certain time frame, they have to tell you that someone died there.
Oh,
Which is why it would be a red flag because I think those are typically cheaper. I would not like to live somewhere in a house where someone died. Thank you very much.
I've also seen somewhere, I don't know if it's allowed, I feel like it is, but you can ask to stay one night or something like that at your apartment or be there at night to see how it is. I forgot. I was on Apartment Talk for a little bit where they would give you advice about moving out and things that you should check when you're in an apartment. And that was one of the tips that a real estate person said. They're like, yeah, you can stay a night or be there at night to see what happens at night. And if anything spooky happens or it's just weird vibes, leave.
Okay, so that was our, I don't know if it was helpful at all, but conversation about moving out versus staying at home. Moral of the story is move out of your parents' home, experience living with people and alone if you would like to, and let us know if you have any questions. And we'll catch you next time. Bye.
Bye. Literally, because speaking of parents, hello.
Back to our program scheduling where I'm just walking on. She knows that she kind of knows how I'm always, she's